Hello and welcome back, dear students. We start with our history session. Lesson 8, Devotional Paths to the Divine. We start with session 2. So today let us see about Basavanna's Virashaivism. But before we start with this topic, let us see what is Virashaivism. So Virashaivism is like the ardent devotees of Lord Shiva led this certain movement, and so it was known as Virashaivism. And as the name suggests, Virashaiva means heroic or firm worshippers of Shiva. And indeed, their alternate name is Lingayat. Now, moving further, let us discuss who is Basavanna. So, Basavanna actually was a person who was born into an Orthodox Brahmin family at Basavana, Bagewadi, which is in present day Bijapur district of Karnataka, around in the 12th century, and his followers are known as Lingayats, and they are the single largest Hindu community in Karnataka. Now, what was the thoughts of Basavanna? Basavanna says that his body is the temple, so he is offering the temple of his body to his beloved God. According to him, he says his legs are the pillars, his body is the shrine, and a head a cupola of gold. Right? So this is what he says, that his own body is the temple which he wants to offer to God. Now let's move further. So around when we had the Tamil Bhakti movement and temple worship came together to create the Virashaiva movement, which began in Karnataka in the mid of the 12th century. It was initiated by Basavanna and other Virashaiva companions like Allamma Prabhu and Akka Mahadevi. These people who followed this Virashaivism or who led the movement as Virashaiva movement, in that they fought for equality for all human beings. They were fighting against the Brahminical ideas of caste and the poor treatment of women. So here, though we say they were the ardent followers of Shiva, they fought here for establishing or bringing about equality amongst the human beings. They were also against the religious rituals and also the idol worships. So they did not accept all forms of religious rituals. They did not accept the way people worshipped idols. But they thought and they preached people that treat each and every human being equally. So they were fighting to bridge the gap between the people in the society. They were urging people to follow the value which is humanity. So even in that ancient time period, we have people like Basavanna who thought about bridging the gap between the society, maybe through the certain worship of the gods and goddesses, or giving them certain path which will help them achieve this value of humanity. So now let us focus more on the saints of Maharashtra. From the 13th to the 17th centuries, Maharashtra has seen a great number of saint poets such as Jnaneshwar, Namdev, and Tukaram Eknath. Also, women saint poets such as Sakhubai and the family of Chokhamira, who belonged to the untouchable Mahar caste. The regional tradition of Bhakti focused on Vitthal, a form of Vishnu whose temple is in Pandharpur, as well as on the notion of a personal God residing in the hearts of all the people. The Vaishnav poet saints of Maharashtra, as we discussed, Jnaneshwar, Namdev, Eknath, Tukaram, they all were the devotees of Vitthal. Devotion around Lord Vitthal gave rise to the Varkari sect, which lay emphasis on an annual pilgrimage to Pandharpur. As we all know, during the time span when we have Ashadi Ekadashi, so prior to that, say around 15 to 20 days before, these Varkari people, they start their pilgrimage on foot or maybe nowadays also in vehicles towards Pandharpur to visit their favorite deity Vitthal. The cult of Vitthal emerged as a powerful mode of devotion and is very popular among the people. So here are a few more saints of Maharashtra. As we discussed, these different saint poets of Maharashtra, they rejected all kinds of rituals, unnecessary display of pity and discrimination on basis of caste. So the saints of Maharashtra generally preached about humanity, love for fellow humans in the society, and they also tried to bring equality among the people. They also rejected the concept of renouncing the world, whereas they preferred to stay with their families and serve the fellow humans and continue with their bhakti towards Vitthal. This was a new form of bhakti where happiness was in sharing the pain of others. Now here, one of the famous Gujarati saint, Narsi Mehta, also says that they are Vaishnavas who understand the pain of others. Now, let's move on to the Nathpanthis, Siddhas, and Yogis. Nathpanthis, Siddhacharas, and Yogis preached renunciation, that is, self sacrifice, and thought that the path to salvation was through meditation on the formless ultimate reality and the oneness of human soul with it. They preached intense training of the mind and body through yogasanas, breathing exercises, and meditation. These groups started becoming popular among the low castes, and their criticism for the common Vedic religion created a base for a new religion to become more common and powerful in the north. So now these Nathpanthis, Siddhas, and Yogis, instead worshipping a certain god or goddesses, they practiced a lot of yogasanas and breathing exercises through which they could control their own mind and body. And here there was no discrimination between castes or religions. So all of them started including the people from different castes, even from the lower sects of the society. And so they had a criticism for the Vedic religion that we had. And all of this gave them a good base for a new religious movement or a new religious sect to get established and to become a common power in the north. So we find these Nathpanthis, Siddhacharyas, or yogis generally in the northern regions. And the most important thing that they preached was again renunciation of the worldly things, even self sacrifice. It's not like you sacrifice yourself, but go away from all the cravings, the lust, the greed, and train your mind and body in such a way that you are united with the ultimate reality, or what we say, oneness of the human soul with the ultimate soul. So now let us talk more about Islam and Sufism. The saints had much common with the Sufis, so much so that it is believed that they adopted many ideas of each other. Now, these Sufis were Muslim mystics who rejected hypocrisy in religion and emphasized love and devotion to God and compassion for fellow human beings. So here, what is mystic? Mystic is a person who believes that he has a connection with the supreme power and he actually does not follow all the conventional rituals or religion prescribes. So here these Sufi saints were engrossed in their own methods of worshipping the god, and they actually rejected the religious rituals which Islam had given them, whereas they emphasized love, right? They were having a lot of love in their heart and they wanted to show it to their fellow human beings, and compassion towards the society as well. Now, talking more about Islam, Islam is follows strict monotheism, or what we call is submission to only one God. Islam also rejects idol worship but preaches collective worship of God. So generally, we have seen people following Islam once in a week, they gather together for the collective worship or the collective namaz, what we say. So here the Sufis used to come together, the different saints who followed Sufism, they came together to worship God in the way they had prescribed or they have decided to worship God. It was not the common method what the Islams follow. So now here, talking more about it is like these different Muslim scholars, they developed a holy law and which was called as Shariat, which the Sufis rejected. Again, this particular law which was derived or devised by certain Muslim scholars, Sufis rejected it because they wanted to get united with the God. They wanted to be one with that supreme power. Talking more about it, these different Sufi saints, they started composing poems and music. They also wrote rich prose, which include different fables and anecdotes. So different experiences, different stories were also a part of their expressive poems and musics. Now these great Sufi saints include the different kinds, we can say, which were the Ghazali from the Central Asia, Rumi, and the Sadi. Like the Nathpanthis, the Siddhas, and the Yogis, the Sufi saints who believed that the heart can be trained to look at the world in a different way. So, as we discussed that the Nathpanthis, the Siddhas and Yogis, they tried to follow or train themselves using different yogasanas, breathing exercise, mind control exercises. Similarly, these Sufi saints also believe that yes, if we follow the proper technique, we can train our heart and we can look to the world in a different view, in a different perspective. So, for achieving the control over the mind or to spread their love about God, they started using different methods such as zikr, which includes chanting name of a god or a certain formula, which we can say a mantra. Then sama, which is singing. Then we also have rags, that is dancing. They also include discussions on parables, breath control exercises, as I mentioned. And this everything was done under a guidance of a master or a peer. Now, what is your discussion on a parable? Parables were the simple stories which had a moral or a spiritual lesson. So we can relate it to the certain stories that were told by Jesus in the Gospels. So now here when you talk about discussion of parables, it is discussing on the small stories which have certain deep moral or a value which these saints wanted to tell the people to bring about awareness, equality and the feeling of humanity between the people. Then we also have something which is here known as contemplation. So contemplation here means a deep thought where they could reflect on it. A lot of deep thinking, including the different types of worships, were followed by these Islam Sufi saints. Moving further, after we know that we had learned a lesson of Delhi Sultans, after the establishment of the Sultanate, we have many of the Sufi centers developed in our country. The important of which was the Chishti Silsila, and it was most influential as well. As I was talking earlier, that the zikr, the sama, the raqs, discussion on parables were done under the guidance of a master or a peer. So this gave actually the rise or emergence of these different silsilas, what we say as Chisti silsila here. So what is a silsila actually? It is a spiritual genealogy of Sufi teachers. So each of these different silsilas or these Sufi teachers had a slight different method of giving the instructions about the ritual practices. So one of the most influential, as I said, during the Sultanate period, we had the Chishti Silsila. Now, a large number of Sufis from Central Asia settled in Hindustan from the 11th century onwards. So, following the order of the Chishti Silsila, we have more teachers and thinkers in line like Khwaja Moinuddin Chishti of Ajmer. We have a great dargah over there of Moinuddin Chishti at Ajmer as well. We have Kutubuddin Bakhtiyar Kaki of Delhi, Baba Farid from Punjab, Khwaja Nizamuddin Aulia of Delhi, and Banda Nawaz Gizudaraz of Gulbarga. So these are the important silsilas which were a lot of influential people who influenced the Islam. Sufi masters also held assemblies. As we remember, Akbar used to have assemblies with the religious scholars. Similarly, the leaders of these Sufi sect were having different assemblies, and these assemblies were generally held in khanqahs, or it was also known as hospices. So not now what actually is hospice? So hospice is actually a house of rest or a rest house for travelers, especially when one is going for a religious pilgrim. So your textbook says hospice is a house of rest for travelers, especially one kept by a religious orders. So generally we have these dharamshalas and all. Yes, so that is one of the kind of hospice. So where all kinds of devotees came to discuss on the spiritual matters. They tried to solve their day-to-day life problems, or they also attended the music and dance sessions of the Sufi saints, which helped them to get the mental peace. People mostly associated these Sufis having like magical powers. So their tombs or dargahs also became places of pilgrimage for the people of all ages and castes to visit and pay their respect. So I hope you've understood all about Sufism and Islam. So this is all from my side. Till we meet for the next time, I want you to go through all the topics from your textbook for your better understanding. Take care. Bye bye.